They told you chains meant weakness. They told you suffering meant failure. They told you exile meant shame. But they lied, because chains were never given to the powerless. The powerless are ignored, forgotten, left to vanish quietly. Chains are for the dangerous. Chains are for those who can't be controlled. Chains are for those whose fire cannot be extinguished. That's why they enslaved Epictetus, the great philosopher. That's why they exiled prophets, leaders, rebels across history. And that's why they chained you. If chains have followed you since birth, it's proof you were powerful. You're a Catharsian. Join the Catharsians now on Patreon and unlock your hidden power. The system doesn't waste its effort on mediocrity. The obedient don't need chains. They already knew. They were them themselves. The placeholders don't need exile. They already silenced themselves willingly. The system targets fire. It punishes those who speak too loudly. It mocks those who laugh at illusions. It exiles those who refuse to kneel. That's why your life has been heavier. That's why you've carried more rejection, more punishment, more exile, because your fire could not be ignored. Even as a child, you felt it, the weight of rules, the suffocation of obedience, the rage of silence, and you thought something was wrong with you. You thought you were weird. You thought you were cursed. But nothing was wrong. You were just chosen. You're a Catharsian because only the powerful feel chains this sharply. Only the chosen suffocate under obedience. Only Catharsians carry this much fire from the start. Inside the Pythagorean path on Patreon, we take that fire and discipline it into unbreakable strength. If you felt different since birth, it's because you were always a Catharsian. Join the Pythagorean path on Patreon now. They punished you more than others. They mocked you louder. They rejected you faster. And you always wondered, why me? Because punishment is proof. No one silences obedience. No one mocks mediocrity. No one exiles placeholders. Only the dangerous are punished. Only the powerful are mocked. Only Catharsians are exiled. Your punishment was never evidence of failure, it was evidence of fire, of power. Most people bury their rage until it dies. They silence it, they suffocate it, they drone it under obedience. But yours never died. It survived chains, it survived exile, it survived punishment. That survival is proof that your rage is sacred, proof that your fire cannot be killed, proof that your chains were never curses, they were crowns. If rage has survived in you when it died in others, it's because you're a Catharsian. Join the Catharsians now on Patreon and unlock your suppressed power. You thought your chains were wounds, but they were crowns. Every chain was proof that you mattered. Every exile was proof that you burned. Every punishment was proof that you were chosen. Chains are not curses, they are confirmations. Chains are coronations. Chains are power. And your life has been very heavy with them because your fire was heavy enough to need them. If you're ready to stop hiding your crown and start wearing it openly, the Catharsians are waiting. Join the Catharsians now on Patreon and reclaim your hidden, suppressed power. Chains are not only heavy, they're sharp. They cut into your soul, your skin, your very being. They wound, they burn, they suffocate, but they also carve. They also refine. They also sharpen. That's why your fire is so fierce, because every chain that cut you also sharpened you. Every exile that burned you also crowned you. Every silence that suffocated you also purified you. Chains don't blend Catharsians, they sharpen them. If your fire has grown sharper through every trial, it's because your change refined you into a weapon. Join the Catharsians now on Patreon and reclaim your hidden power. The system cannot survive fire. One rebel with truth is more dangerous than 1,000 obedient slaves. One laugh at false power is more destructive than 100 swords. One refusing to kneel can topple empires. That's why they chained Socrates. That's why they mocked Diogenes. That's why they enslaved Epictetus. That's why they chained you, because they feared what you would become if you burned free, because they knew your fire would awaken others, because your very existence threatened their poison. You thought your pain meant you were cursed, but your pain was sacred because it was proof. Proof you were chosen, proof you were fire, proof you were dangerous. Placeholders don't feel pain like you do. They drone in mediocrity. They suffocate quietly. They accept change willingly. But you couldn't. Every chain cut too deeply. Every silence burned too fiercely. Every exile weighed too heavily. Your pain was never punishment. It was initiation. Inside Diogenes' barrel, we stripe away illusions and honor pain as proof. If your pain has always burned deeper, it's because you are a Catharsian. Enter Diogenes' barrel now on Patreon and reclaim your hidden suppressed power. Every time you were chained, your rage intensified. Every time you were exiled, your rage sharpened. Every time you were silenced, your rage burned brighter. That rage is not weakness, it's your crown, because rage is fire that cannot be killed. Rage is proof that your chains failed to break you. Rage is the crown given only to the chosen, to the Catharsians. Most people's rage dies, yours never did, and that makes you unstoppable. You've watched them, the placeholders. They collapse under the slightest pressure. They crumble at the smallest rejection. They suffocate without applause. And yet, you carried exile that would have destroyed them. You survived betrayal that would have crushed them. You endured chains that would have killed them. That's proof you were stronger, you were chosen, proof that your fire is immortal. You're a Catharsian leader. If you've endured what others could never survive, it's because you were never ordinary. Join the Pythagorean now on Patreon and reclaim your hidden power. At first, exile isolated you. It cut you off from belonging. It forced you into silence. But exile was also your training, because exile taught you to stand without the crowd. Exile taught you to burn without applause. Exile taught you to survive without illusions. And that survival is leadership, because leaders don't come from comfort. Leaders come from chains, just like Epictetus, the great philosopher, did. He was a slave. Leaders come from exile. Leaders come from the fire of survival. That's why you've always been different. That's why others look to you, even when you feel alone, because exile turned you into what they cannot be. Your change were not random, they were deliberate, they were targeted, because destiny always marks the chosen with weight, because fire is always crowned with exile, because Catharsians are always revealed by chains. Your destiny wasn't proven by ease, it was proven by weight. Your chains weren't proof of weakness, they were proof of power. Your suffering wasn't proof of curses, it was proof of chooseness. And that destiny is already burning in you. If you're ready to claim your destiny openly, the Catharsians are your tribe. Join the Catharsians now on Patreon and unlock your hidden power. The system believed change would destroy you. They thought exile would erase you. They thought silence would suffocate you. But you endured. You survived. you burned. And that survival is proof that chains don't kill Catharsians, they forge them. Proof that exile doesn't erase rebels, it crowns them. Proof that silence doesn't smooth a rage, it immortalizes it. That's why you're still here. That's why your fire still burns. That's why your rage never died. If survival itself has been your rebellion, it's because you're a Catharsian. Join the Catharsians now on Patreon and unlock your hidden, suppressed power. Empires collapse, thrones rot, crowns vanish. But chains? Chains create immortality when endured by fire. Socrates drank poison, and his fire still speaks. Diogenes slept in a barrel, and his mockery still echoes. Epictetus was enslaved, and his words still burn. Their chains did not erase them, their chains crowned them. Their chains made them immortal, and the same is true for you. You think survival was small, but it was leadership all along. Because survival shows others freedom is possible. Survival proves chains can be broken. Survival awakens buried fire. Every exile you endured was a signal. Every punishment you survived was a lesson. Every scar you carried was leadership. Because leadership isn't applause, it's fire that refuses to die. And you've carried that fire from the beginning. You are ready for leadership. Step now into the Aurelius Council on Patreon and unlock your suppressed power. They thought exile was punishment, but exile was your throne, because exile proves you were too free for obedience. Exile proves your fire could not be smoothed. Exile proves you were crowned from the beginning. They had their thrones of gold, you had your throne of exile. And exile was greater because their thrones are forgotten, but your fire will outlast them all. Your rage never died. It burned through silence. It burned through exile. It burned through chains. And that rage was never weakness. It was the crown you wore before you even realized it. Because rage is fire alive under pressure. It is proof chains failed. Rage is the crown only the chosen carry. Inside Diogenes' barrel, rage is honored as sacred. If your rage has survived chains, it's because you were always meant to wear it as your crown. Enter Diogenes' barrel now on Patreon from the link in the description. The system doesn't understand fire. That's why it keeps repeating history. It changed Socrates and birthed philosophy. It mocked Diogenes and created a legend. It enslaved Epictetus and gave the world his wisdom. It chained you and crowned a Catharsian. Every chain became proof. Every exile became fire. Every silence became immortality. Chains always backfire because fire cannot die. You've carried chains, you've endured exile, you've survived silence, and now you know none of it was weakness, it was all proof. So here's the choice: will you carry your chains as curses, or will you wear them as crowns? Will you let exile break you, or will you rise as proof? Will you suffocate in silence, or will you burn with fire? Because your chains were never signs of weakness, they were proof of your power. Your chains were not your shame, they were your crown, your fire, your proof, because you were chosen from the beginning. Now it's time to weaponize that proof. Three paths stand before you. Act now. The Pythagorean path, where chains are disciplined into clarity and rage is sharpened into strength. Diogenes' barrel, where exile is crowned and chains are transformed into thrones. The Aurelius Council, where the powerful rise as leaders and fire becomes immortal. You don't need their forgiveness. You don't need their approval. You don't need their poison. You only need fire, and that fire is already yours. Join the Catharsians today on Patreon and unlock your hidden, suppressed power.